Welcome back to Made for More. I am your host, Holly J. Moore. I am a divorce lawyer who is passionate about helping you to use the difficult things in your life to grow and reach your absolute highest potential. Aaron Bender, are you over there discovering yourself?
I am discovering myself. Excuse me. Well, I'm discovering how my shirt is just like puckering.
Get it right.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. We have an author, an actress on the show today.
Yes.
Her new book / workbook is called Selfish. Stephanie Szostak is on the show today. A lot of shh in that intro there. I'm curious. It's all about self-discovery. I'm curious, how much self-discovery were you doing before you started the podcast? Because I know there's been a lot of self-discovery since.
There definitely has. I would say, ever since I really started being intentional about growing and scaling the law firm, anybody that has done something like that knows that you have to do a lot of personal development. Like, personal development precedes professional success. So I was really kind of already doing a lot of personal development. I would say that the podcast, though, has really kind of brought the relationship element more into it. Because the stuff I was doing before was really a lot about, mindset and more stuff that really lends itself more towards the individual, like just myself, myself, and I. And I would say that the guests on the podcast and the books that I read for the podcast, because the authors on the show, like, it's a lot more relationship stuff. It's a lot more maybe like looking back into, some patterns that were set a long time ago, back in childhood, things like that. So it's definitely been a different element than I was already doing. But it's been, it's been great. It's been good. I'm so thankful for it. We are joined today by Stephanie Szostak. I have to admit, I keep wanting to say Short Stack because I just looked at your Instagram, Steph Short Stack on Instagram. But she is an actress and author of the book Selfish, a step into a journey of self-discovery to revive confidence, joy, and meaning. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Holly.
Thank you.
Holly J. Moore.
Yeah. Yes. So this book has also been called an interactive playbook for mental fitness. So tell us really quick, first, what is mental fitness?
I would say for me, mental fitness is being able to catch myself when my emotions run high and then recalibrate, pivot, get back on track or lower the nervous system and hopefully respond better. Okay.
So this, as you're saying that, in my mind, the stoicism bells are ringing. Is this similar to like a Stoic philosophy?
No, although I do like the Stoics.
Okay.
What it is really is, I think all of us have things that help us with our mental fitness, help us respond better to life's challenges, help us get in a better frame of mind, help us prepare for the tough moments in life. So we all have inspiration, wisdom that we come across that works for us.
Okay.
But the problem is we forget it. And so that was my problem when I went through an ongoing journey of, self-discovery and improvement. My problem was, how do I remember these things? And so I thought...
That is such a good point. I have that same problem.
Yes.
I know it all, but when the moment comes, it goes right out the door.
Exactly. When your teenage son is late for school again and you're up there trying to get him up, all that parenting advice that you're trying to practice goes out the door and you're just in a shouting match again. So I thought, businesses have playbooks. Coaches have playbooks, of course, to keep their values, to keep the strategies that help them. They don't rely on memory. Even teachers in classrooms they don't have playbooks, but they have reminders all over the walls. So their kids see all these things that they're supposed to practice every day. And so it was actually my husband's idea. I can't take credit for it, but he was like, why don't we have a place where we could gather all our inspiration, wisdom, guidance, and every day before we get hijacked by, the to-do list, the emails, the news, all the stuff that derails us, we could remind ourselves so that hopefully we can better respond. And so that's, I created a playbook for myself 7 years ago. And then it led to writing this workbook, which will help you create your playbook with the stuff that resonates with you. I'm not telling you what to put in your playbook.
Okay. So was there something, I want to talk a little bit about your backstory, and what I guess I'm particularly interested in is like, was there something significant in your life other than just sort of, going along in life and feeling like, okay, I know the information and it goes out the door every time I really need it. Was there something significant or something else that really sort of led you to start down this path?
A prenuptial agreement, or sometimes called a premarital agreement, is an agreement that two parties enter into before they get married that basically chooses to deviate from state law. It assigns rights and responsibilities regarding assets and debts that are acquired during the marriage. Some common misconceptions about prenups are, one, that they basically doom the marriage to failure, or that it's really planning to divorce, and neither of those things are true. But the real value of a prenup is talking about and creating rules around how the things that you acquire during the marriage are going to be characterized. A prenup can protect things like art collections, real estate portfolios, businesses, all those types of assets. The ideal timeline to get a prenup is not 2 weeks before the wedding. The final version of a prenup has to be presented to the parties 7 days before they actually sign it. So there's like a 7-day waiting period. As soon as you get engaged, you should seek a lawyer's advice and counsel on a prenup and start the process then, because the closer the prenup is signed to the wedding, the more likely that the court is going to think there was some sort of duress involved in that person signing it, and they have to prove that the prenup was signed voluntarily in order for them to be enforced. At More Family Law Group, we represent a lot of high-profile people, celebrities, professional athletes, business tycoons. If you already have a lot of assets, or you think you're going to be acquiring a lot of assets during your marriage, we are the best ones to protect that for you and help you make your marriage stronger. Call More Family Law Group today.
Yes, in my acting career, acting does wonders for one's confidence. We get rejected all the time.
Right.
And sometimes, I guess it's kind of ironic, because when my acting career started picking up, finally, after 10 years of hustling, I found myself on the Paramount lot, having the lead female role opposite Paul Rudd and Steve Carell. It was unbelievable, and I completely lost my ability to perform because I lost my confidence. I was so worried about what the director was thinking, what they were thinking. I felt like I wasn't as experienced as they were, which I wasn't, but it really impacted my confidence, and that impacted my performance. So I didn't, not only I felt like every take I did was crappy. Basically, my self-talk after every take was like, oh my gosh, that sucked. They're going to think it sucked. They're going to think I suck. I do suck. I don't belong here. I'm going to get fired.
Oh my gosh.
And when you repeat that over and over to yourself, the anxiety happens. It impacts not only your work performance, but also how you relate with other people. And I felt like an outsider. I felt lonely. And the good thing is it eventually pushed me on this journey of, oh, wait, I maybe need to find some tools to help myself better, be better, have a better mental game. And I thought my problem was I was a choker, that I couldn't handle the pressure.
Oh, okay.
But what I discovered was I was really just lacking self-awareness and mental fitness, the ability to catch myself, to recalibrate, understand what I was about beyond career success, or, my ego was all tied into everything.
Right.
And so that's what led me on this path.
So this is probably going to sound like the stupidest question in the world, but I'm not very familiar with the world of acting. Like, if you do, can you be fired? Like, you've already been cast in the role, and then you're doing, you're filming. If you do bad, can you be fired? Like mid?
Yep.
Really? Okay.
It happens
so
all the time.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I have stories. A friend of mine, his wife did the pilot. Do you remember Homeland?
Yes.
Yeah. So she was the wife in Homeland.
Okay.
And she did the pilot and then got the call that it was picked up. And her and her husband celebrated. We're like, woohoo. And then a week later, she got the call that she got recast. It happened on my show, A Million Little Things. One of us got recast after the pilot. It happens all the time.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
Yes.
Okay. So did you get fired from the show with Paul Rudd?
I did not. I did not.
What show was it? Or what movie?
It was called Dinner for Schmucks. It was a movie.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you made it through that, right?
Yeah.
And you ultimately ended up performing to the level that they needed you to?
I don't think so. I mean, when I watch it, I just can see that I wasn't free. I don't necessarily think I did badly, but it's just like when you're conducting an interview. There's interviews where at times you feel really in the moment, in the flow, and you're free and you're just going to gel with the other person, right? And that's when the magic happens. Right. And then maybe early on in your career, you felt like you had to follow the script more. You were a little more tense. And so it wasn't as alive. And so that's what happened to me. So when I watch it, I'm like, I can see how I wasn't free. I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Taking risks.
Okay. Wow. This is so fascinating to me. Okay, so then you created your own playbook, and it was ways where you could sort of like overcome these obstacles that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, so it was basically what it looks like is kind of like your Instagram grid, except it's private, it's for you. And in it, I had some of the things I was proud of that I had done in my career. I had screenshots or notes from coaches and teachers who I liked. I had actors that I admire and what they do. And I also had just simple reminders like, listen today, be curious, no ego. And I play it, and when I play it, it has music. So it's just a way to remind yourself how you want to show up in life.
Okay. I love that. Now, my notes say that you started acting when you were 28. Is that correct?
29. I took my first acting class.
These people are fired. It's 29, not 28. Okay, so
I'm looking it up.
Aaron?
I know, Aaron, you're getting the hook. So what? Oh, he really is Googling it right now. I see it on the monitor. Or doing something. What did you do prior to like making your foray into acting?
I studied business marketing.
Okay.
And then I moved to New York City and got a job at Chanel in skincare.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it was amazing because I had access to the closet. I could get free skincare. I could go to the sample sale. I still have pieces to this day. I mean, this was 30 years ago that I bought for nothing. Yeah. But I guess there was a little voice inside of me. I worked there for 2.5 years that was like, something's missing. Or I would look at my boss and her boss and not necessarily be like, yes, I want to do this.
Right.
And a chance, the director of advertising actually asked me to do a photo shoot. And the photographer there said, what modeling agency are you with? And I was like, no, I'm not a model. But that kind of planted a seed. Not that I wanted to be a model, but a seed of, oh, maybe I could try that. And maybe that would lead me to something that I want to do. And so at 26, I left the corporate world to model, and then that led to doing commercials, and then eventually to me being like, all right, I'm going to take a serious acting class.
Yeah. Okay. And what was it about acting that intrigued you or attracted you?
When I did modeling, I remember there's two sorts of photo shoots. You can do a catalog photo shoot, and we all know what that looks like. That wasn't really anything that I felt really uncomfortable doing that kind of modeling. But then there was the editorial shoots, where you sort of, for me, it was the first time that I allowed myself to access a little bit of the dark side, the not so good girl, not so people pleaser. And I kind of like that. And that tells you psychologically, I grew up being a people pleaser. I had a brother who was a heroin addict and struggled a lot with drug addiction. And I think that led me into being the good girl and not rocking the boat.
Right.
So that feeling of just all of a sudden accessing things within that I had buried a long time ago is what led me to acting, and why I love acting, because it's a study of human behaviors and why we do the things we do, and that we're all imperfect. And I love getting into other people's shoes, and it's really fun.
So something that I find interesting is, and actually we did just have a Broadway actor on the show not that long ago, and he actually brought me a very fresh perspective that I did not know about, and I had not heard before. And so I'm curious, kind of asking you the same question, because I find it so interesting that you are on this journey of self-discovery, really learning about yourself and what sort of makes you tick, and when you're ticking in a way that you don't like, how to, sort of redirect yourself. And to me, I've always thought of acting as like you're playing another character. You're actually not being yourself. So I find it like a very interesting dichotomy. So do you feel like there is a connection between going down this journey of self-discovery and then actually professionally you play the part of someone else? Or tell me what you think about that.
Well, what was ironic for me was, I spent, 15 years playing other characters and really sort of creating biographies for these characters. What matters to them? What are their obstacles? What are the events that shape their lives? So I could understand them better and get into their shoes. And then I realized when I was going through my challenges and well-being, really mindset problems, I realized, the work that I do for every character, I need to do on myself. This is the same thing. But I think what you were asking is, when you play another person, is it all fake, or do you draw on your own person too?
Okay, I like that question too. Yes. Go ahead with that question.
Well, there was a famous acting teacher named Uda Hagen, and she said, instead of losing yourself in the part, find yourself in the part. And so every character is going to be richer if you draw from who you are, right? If you bring part of who you are to the person. You have to, because that's how you're going to make it real. Otherwise, you're just going to pretend and not really feel this. So it is interesting that you can really portray somebody different than you are, but in a way, you have to find the truth within yourself to do that.
Interesting. So do you feel like doing more self-discovery has helped you in your acting career?
I think doing the self-discovery has helped me be freer in my acting career and understand why I do it, and not have my all of the end game being like success or what people think
Right.
or validation. Now I know my measures of success are for me. Or did I
Right.
work hard? Did I play? Did
Yeah.
I take risks? So that
Yeah.
the self-discovery has helped me make my own standards, I guess, about performance.
So that leads me to my next question, because you talked early on in the show about how acting, it's a lot of hits to your ego. You have to, endure a lot of rejection and things like that. So what are your tips for separate? And I'm a lawyer. My day job is a lawyer, and I feel very wrapped up in that identity. If somebody came to me tomorrow and said, "You're no longer a lawyer," like, I would probably have a very hard time with that. So how do we separate who we truly are and our worth, our intrinsic worth, from just sort of existing, from what we do and our titles and all of those kinds of things? What are your tips for separating those two things?
Yeah, I think, well, I also just, you said you're a lawyer, and I'm like, talk about rejection. You too, I mean, you have better batting averages than actors, but you too. You never
I never
lose.
get rejected. I win everything. What are you talking about?
But see, that's the thing. So whether we win or lose a case or a role, you are the same lawyer, right?
Yes.
Your talent is the same.
Yeah.
So I think that I play golf, and that was something I think that I read in a golf book, and it was whether you have a good round in a tournament and then 2 days later you have a bad round, you're still the same golfer. You're not better or worse.
Right.
And so understanding that, to me, really helped me not tie my self-worth to the outcome. And then in terms of identity, I'm not an act. A friend of mine, actually, Melissa Bernstein, do you know the toys Melissa and Doug?
Yes.
The kids? Yes.
Oh, yes.
So she founded the
Wow.
toys.
Okay.
And she said, which I love, you have to live in the verb versus living in the noun. And so living in the noun is, I'm an actor, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and living in the verb is, I create, I work hard, I like to connect with people. And so then if the acting goes away, or the acting for me, right now I haven't had an acting job in 16 months. How can I keep creating? How can I express myself through those things that make me come alive? So does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yes. What are, I think, part of that discovery, like what makes me come alive, is reconnecting with yourself, right?
Yes.
So how does one in real life, because I think a lot of the times we talk about things like self-care and we talk about big concepts, meaning we talk about, like, on this podcast all the time. But what I always like to do is, like, just get really practical with it. Like, if I were to walk out of the studio today and I'm like, I need to reconnect with myself, what do I actually do?
One thing I love is on YouTube, head over to Yoga Nidra by Ali.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Yoga Nidra?
No.
So it's not a movement yoga. It's you're lying down.
Okay. I like it already.
And Ali talks to you. You put your
Okay.
headphones on.
Yeah.
You got to be quiet, like a quiet space. And it's actually a practice that calms and soothes your nervous system. And I find that for me, when we come to a place of stillness, is when you can all of a sudden reconnect to, this is what I'm about. And I love her voice. I mean, we're all different, but give Yoga Nidra by Ali a try.
Okay. So how does one know if in that moment I'm now reconnected?
I think it's kind of like those moments that hit us. Same with happiness, and quote, like, sometimes you're driving somewhere in the sunset. You see the sunset and you're just like, you feel this feeling inside, and you're connected to a place within that is beautiful, and it connects you to nature and the environment. Same thing when I think that's a connection to ourselves too.
Yeah.
Reading a book that, or poetry, if you like poetry, or just reading a book that inspires you, rereading a book that inspires you with your coffee in the morning, revisiting those things that speak to us, language, and you know, I think reconnecting can be mind, it can be body, it can be spirit. So sometimes just going for whatever exercise you like to do, running, you might be like, here I am. I feel like.
Right. Okay. So getting back to sort of this concept of a playbook, and you know, you mentioned like, I'm not going to fill it out for you. Like, it's very much a workbook. It's not as much like a reading book. It's very much like interactive, and you know, there's homework involved. What are your tips for people that are filling out the workbook? Is there any guidance? Is there any tips that you give people?
So the workbook, I did it with a mental health nonprofit called Give an Hour, and 50% actually of the work of my profits go to Give an Hour.
Okay.
There's 8 steps, so it's doable. It's not like 15 exercises, 8 steps. Each step is introduced by a story. I do one, but then there's 7 other stories from veterans, people who are in recovery, you know, people who comes from all different backgrounds.
Yeah.
The stories sort of inspire you, and then each exercise has very detailed prompts, so it's easy to do. Okay. I like to do this type of thing on my own, but since the book came out, what I realized is a lot of people like to do this in community as a book club, like with your girlfriends or even at work. I did this with a group of Marines who did it together. And I think on our website, it's selfishplaybook.com. We have a book club guide. So meaning you're not necessarily going to share your answers because it's very personal. It's your life.
Right.
But you could share how the experience was for you, or do you relate to this? Or was this hard to think of your achievements, or, you know?
Yeah. Okay. And I did actually want to ask you, it was in my notes and I just forgot. Tell us more about Give an Hour. What is that?
Give an Hour is a national mental health organization, and they offer one-on-one counseling at no cost. They work with populations who have been impacted by human-made trauma. So mass shootings, they work with the military and their families, caregivers, victims of financial fraud. They offer one-on-one counseling at no cost through a network of mental health professionals who volunteer. But they also, and I love this, help people create peer support groups. So we know there's not enough mental health, professionals for everyone. And also, some people don't feel comfortable speaking to a mental health professional and feel more comfortable speaking to somebody who's lived through similar experiences. So they train peer supporters. And they also offer education in communities. They'll actually travel to communities after events and help provide training.
Okay. Now, would you say that doing this workbook is a form of self-care?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I was looking at your Instagram and I saw you on a video talking about self-care, and I actually really liked what you have to say, but I don't want to spoil it for everybody. So what do you believe self-care is, and how, if I'm like, I need to do more self-care, what do I do?
I have no idea what I said in that video. I think sometimes self-care, people are like, oh yeah, go get your nails done and all these things. But I think self-care is things that replenish you, uplift you, move the needle in the right direction for you. And self-care could be kind of what we said earlier, right? Mind, body, spirit. So it could be working out. It could be going for a walk in nature. Asking yourself what you said, what reconnects me to myself. But it's also in doing the work. I think I remember when I was going through my whole everybody was like, you have to do the work. You have to do. And I was like, what the frick is the darn?
Yeah, what is the work? I want to do the work. How do I do it? What is it? Yes.
What is the work?
Yes.
And the work is just self-reflection, gaining self-awareness, then learning the tools that help us. And we're all different. There's a lot of different tools. And then the third part is practicing those tools. So I would say self-care is making sure you gain awareness, have tools, and then practice them and do it in a way that fuels you.
Yeah, I love that. That's very actionable. I love, it's like a 3-step, 1, 2, 3, gaining self-awareness, getting the tools, and then practicing. Practicing it is probably the hardest part, right?
Yeah. And it's, to me, to practice it, you got to remember. And that was that's why I created a playbook.
Right.
And just to tell you the story of how this book came about, because I never meant to write a workbook or anything like that. But during COVID, when we were all stuck at home, Given Hour asked me, what do you do for your well-being? And I mentioned this concept of a playbook. And so we did a series of webinars together to introduce the concept to their community.
Okay.
But everybody was like, what do I put in my playbook?
Yeah.
And then someone said, why don't you write a workbook to help people come up with the content to put in their playbook? And then I looked at my own playbook and I was like, oh, this comes from this therapist who told me to do this. This comes from this coach. This comes from this exercise that I heard on a podcast that I did,
Well, I love it. Well, so I mentioned I'm a lawyer. I own a law firm. And we do a monthly power hour, and it's like, once a month we get lunch for the whole team and we gather in our training room, and there's usually there's a topic for the day. And I'm always looking for topic suggestions. And one of my attorneys during a text exchange, when she was like, I'm so burnt out, or something like that. It wasn't exactly that, but she was like, how about the next power hour? We could do it on self-care. So I will be ordering 30 of these. And I think I'm gonna make that the topic of our next law firm power hour, because I think that would be really helpful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you can have the book club thing, because so you could be like, okay, we're going to have a kickoff with the things. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to reconvene.
Yeah.
Because I've done that actually with also a wellness center in a university, and it was for their therapists, and they said, "Oh my gosh, we got to know each other on a level that we didn't know each other." And
it's like a team building thing too, I would imagine. Yeah. I love it. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for creating a way that we can all create our own playbook.
Yeah, thanks so much, Holly. You're awesome. You're so real. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I've got just a little bit more to say. I find myself all the time talking about these big concepts, even here on the podcast in this final segment. We're like, do the work. You got to do the internal work, self-care, self-discovery, whatever. But sometimes that's not always tangible. And what Stephanie said about I want to do what is the work? What is the work? I that resonates a lot with me, because sometimes I find myself thinking that too. We talk about all these big theories and these big picture concepts, but what is it? So I actually love that she really broke it down into 3 things. First is gaining self-awareness. I mean, that is the first step, right? You've been around these people that you're just like, wow, are they even on this planet? They have no self-awareness of how they come across to other people or anything. So first is gaining self-awareness. Second is gaining the tools, which we go over tools a lot on Made for More. I'm always asking people, okay, if I'm walking out of here today, like, tell me something I can do. What are the top 3 things? I'm always trying to really dig into that piece of getting the tools. And then the last thing, the third and last thing, which this is the kicker, is practicing it. Once you have all this knowledge and we have the tools and we have the awareness, it's so hard to actually put it into place, particularly when emotions are high, you're in a conflict, you're feeling uncomfortable, all those things. That's the time to practice. And so I think just, keeping in mind those 3 things, gaining self-awareness, getting the tools, and practicing. And I know you can do it because, of course, you were made for more.